PM. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Morton and Councillor Manson. Now, it resolved that this December the 10th, 2024 regular meeting of council be called to order at 6:01 PM. And everyone is in attendance, so we have no one missing. We have our staff here as well. And I've already had a complaint by one of the councillors that I have a report to give at the end of the meeting. And he wanted to keep the meeting short.
I was asked to keep the meeting short, and I said, you're not gonna keep it short with that agenda item.
Well, that agenda item is what I'm gonna call the quarter pounder. The quarter pounder is a going on with
And here's the meeting already getting longer.
here's the meeting already getting longer. There you go. All right, so the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Morton, Councillor Manson. Therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin hereby approves the agenda as circulated. All in favor? And that is carried. Any declarations of pecuniary or conflict of interest? None? All right, the next item is the approval of the previous minutes. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Latimer and Councillor Morgan. Now therefore be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of November the 26th, 2024 be approved as presented and circulated. Are there any changes? None? All in favor? Carried. Next item is delegations to council, which there are none. So we'll move on. Business arising from previous council meetings. We brought forward the Lauder Lake resolution to discuss that with Councillor Grant and Councillor Morton. Now therefore be resolved that the Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin supports the Township of Lauder Lake Resolution number 7 dated November the 12th, 2024, requesting the province of Ontario considered redistributing a portion of the land transfer tax collected on property transactions municipalities, and the government of Ontario consider allocating a percentage of GST collected on property sales to the municipalities, and that be it further resolved that a copy of the original resolution as well as this resolution be forwarded to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities, Minister of Finance, the Federation of the Canadian Municipalities, Minister of Infrastructure Ontario, Northern Development and Mines, and Minister of Finance and FONOM. Any discussion? None? I call this to a vote. All those in favor? And I am as well, so that is carried unanimously. The consent items for information purposes, just before we consider those, I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Manson, Councillor Grant. Sure. Now therefore be it resolved, the Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin hereby receive the consent items as presented. Are there any additions that anybody had bring forward? None? Then the items as presented. All those in favor? And I am as well, so that's carried unanimously. Okay, so a resolution before council, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of the Corporation of Calvin hereby receive the consent agenda. We voted on that, so that's all approved. Sorry, administrative matters. Public Works monthly report. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Morton and Councillor, both put your hands up at exactly the same time. Councillor Latimer. So are you presenting the report? Or?
I can if there's any questions, or would you like that?
Any questions on the monthly report from Public Works?
I have none.
We have the second report later on. Yeah, yeah.
I just want to make a comment that tonight before closing, we did have a citizen come in and wanted to congratulate roads on such great roads. They said they've never seen the roads in such great shape at this time of the year. So wanted for everyone to hear. And I said, it's really nice to hear great things like that. And we do hear that often, but it's worth mentioning when we hear.
Absolutely.
Great accolades.
So then, now therefore be it resolved that the council for the corporation of Calvin receive and accept the public works report as presented. All in favor? And I am as well, so that's carried unanimously. The building code official report, the building officer is not here. But Linda, just any comments on the report before we go any further? No, none? I'll just make one comment. We need more building permits being issued, so that's something we've got to work towards in 2025. So now therefore be it resolved that the council for the corporation of Calvin receive and accept the November 24th building code official report as presented. All those in favor? Carried unanimously.
Yeah, move.
I didn't, oh, I apologize. Then rescind that vote. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Martin and Councillor Grant. So all those in favor of accepting the report? Carried unanimously. See what happens when you try to go really fast? The bridge management study. This online, and it's a long report. We did hear about the report, and we had a presentation further in council, but it is online for anybody who wishes to read it. I had an opportunity to go over it as such. Therefore, be it resolved that the council for the corporation municipality hereby receive and accept the bridge management study. Can I have a mover and a second, please? Councillor Manson and Councillor Morton. Question or discussions on the bridge management report?
I have a comment. I'm just extremely grateful that we have a public works superintendent to take care of this business for us.
Sorry. Thank you, Councillor Latimer. It's hard to hear sometimes. Councillor Manson, who just started to speak.
Oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
John. I can't see and I didn't hear him, so apologize.
It was interesting to the different metrics on the report and how they estimate for replacement costs. It was quite interesting because, you know, I drive over those bridges as we all do. So it's interesting to see how that all comes in. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor of accepting the report? I am as well, so that is carried unanimously. All right. Next item on the agenda, 8.4, the Christmas season office and landfill schedule. Just to accept this report, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Grant, Councillor Morgan. Whereas the municipality of Calvin office will be closed from December the 24th, 2024 at noon until January the 2nd. And whereas Christmas and New Year's Eve coincides with landfill operation days, now therefore be it resolved that the landfill will be closed on the 24th and the 31st, 2024. And further that with the exception of the statutory holiday pay as per the Employment Standards Act, all staff time away from work will be compensated only through vacation and overtime earned. Did you want to comment on that at all? No? Any questions or comments? No? All right, then all those in favor? That is carried unanimously. I am as well. The next item on the agenda is a report from the CAO about the Ontario government proposal for offsetting the OPP. Did I skip one?
Yeah, 8.5.
Oh, sorry, yes, the regular meeting schedule of councils. Oh, and this is a controversial issue. No, it's not. Sorry, can I have a mover and a seconder for the regular schedule of meetings? Okay, Councillor Morgan and Councillor Manson. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation Municipality of Calvin receives and accepts the recommendations as presented in the CAO report to council schedule of regular meetings for 2025. And of course, they're in the back of your package. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? What is it they say? Be it so, and may you forever hold your
Hold
peace.
your peace.
All right.
That's for weddings.
All right. Well, listen, there is a couple of changes. I know that there was a concern sometimes that it was on the second and the last Tuesday of the month. And there's going to be one meeting on a Wednesday just because it follows the Easter holidays. But it's all published and it's all on the website. So anybody who wants to see a schedule of meetings can see it. So,
And I will send the calendar invite out once, and if you pass this, so please accept those so that they end up in your calendar today for the entire year.
just a question going forth, do we always have to bring this forward into a meeting? Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Every December.
okay. Well, then all those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So now on to the CAO report from the Ontario government proposal for offsetting OPP costs for small municipalities. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Morton, Councillor Manson. I'll just read the resolution and then I'll turn it over to you, Donna, to address it if you wouldn't mind. Now therefore be it resolved that the council for the Corporation of Municipality of Calvin receives and accepts the CAO report. Actually, you know what? Before I read the resolution, I'm going to ask you to speak to it because this is pretty important. This is big for us.
I think it's big for Ontario, right? There were a lot of municipalities across Ontario who sent resolutions to the minister, and a lot of organizations such as Roma, Phenom, you've heard me speak of the importance, in the role that they play in the province, also petitioned the government of Ontario to do something about the increased cost of OPP services. For the municipality of Calvin, we would see approximately an increase of $25,000 in 2025, which was huge for us. And one day last week, we were inundated with phone calls from all kinds of people and emails. MPP Fidelli did call to let us know that they were now reducing the increased cost to municipalities across Ontario, not just Calvin. And for us, that would mean a reduction of approximately $17,000. So instead of a $25,000 increase, we'll see, an approximate $8,000 increase, which is roughly 6%,
Right.
which is a typical sort of increase. With all the EBCs, the boards and committees and agencies that are province-wide, such as OPP, the Canadian Ecology Center, it's not the Canadian Ecology Center, the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority, as you are aware, DSAB, all of those things that we put in the budget last year and really pointed out to our residents before we spend a dime on anything operationally, whether it's staffing, hydro. For Calvin last year, that equated to a little over $400,000. So this would have added another $25,000, and now we're an increase of $17,000 in OPP alone. That's not just OPP. There's the OPP board, as you know, that Councillor Grant sits on. That's an additional OPP related cost, but there's a savings. So the Ontario government was pressured by municipalities across Ontario. So when you think your voices are not heard, here's a great example that when you pull together and you create a mass to the government of Ontario, sometimes they listen. And this is really one of those examples that don't do it alone.
Right on. Well, thank you very much for that. And you're absolutely right. It's a big win for all the municipalities, Calvin included. But it's kind of funny, as you said, it's not 25% of an increase. It's a 6% increase. And, it's almost a foregone conclusion that everything's going to be 6% more expensive. I mean, that's the accepted norm now. And you're right, when it comes to calculating taxes next year, if you have a 6% increase across the board, it's pretty hard to have a smaller than that increase.
For our own ratepayers.
Yeah, for our own ratepayers. So now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin receives and accepts the CAO report Ontario government proposal for offsetting OPP cost increases for small municipalities. Any last questions or comments? Grant?
I just wanted to thank the provincial government and MPP Fidelity for the work that he did on this, because I'm very critical of them as well. So when, I just think it's great, that, they're softening the costs as well at this point, and hopefully it's something that they're gonna continue. It's not just
Good point.
a one-off. And I mean, it's not an election year, so that's encouraging as well, right? So maybe they'll be able to continue this and help us out, help our ratepayers out as well. So that's all.
Great comments, thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments, concerns? No? Then we'll call this to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the report? I'm as well, and that is carried unanimously. Some more good news, really. The status of tax arrears. Could I get a mover and a seconder for this topic, please? Councillor Morton and Councillor Manson. This I'll turn over to the CAO. This is a report on the status of tax arrears.
First, when you get to my report, second subject line down under background, it says on November 27, 2025, I submitted a notice of commencement of tax sale procedures. It was 2024. I haven't done this in the future yet. It didn't happen. Wanted to report that since the report was authored, we have now another payment agreement to see payment in full of 2 of those properties that remain in arrears. And that's a total income of $25,000 of tax arrears 3 years or more. So we reduced that drastically, as you know. And I do want to tell you that those letters went out to people, and every single person that has contacted, no one was angry, upset. Everyone actually apologized because they put the letters, so many of them that they've received, on the counter and forgot about them and just didn't do anything about them. And there was not a confrontation with anyone at all. People were very, they were receptive to the letter. They know they owe taxes, and they were, I don't want to say happy to create payment plans, but there was no issue at all from a human perspective dealing with these people.
Excellent. Plus, the municipality has a little bit more of its operating revenue that we were short of for a number of years.
And as Councillor Grant pointed out at the meeting when BDO was here talking about the importance of tax arrears, we pay in advance school board taxes. So for these who did not pay for 3 years or more, your taxpayer dollars as citizens actually paid for not only the services that everyone receives, but for school board taxes in advance while these people did not pay their taxes. It's another important thing to always remember.
Right. Right. Any other comments? All right, I'll just now therefore be resolved that the council.
Sorry, can I have just a quick question on
Well,
that?
I will,
Okay,
we'll get to that. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation Municipality of Calvin receives and accepts the CAO report and status of arrears for 3 years or more. Any questions or comments? Councillor Manson.
just on the people that didn't respond, and they came back undeliverable. It's a bit of a balance of privacy, and does anyone know how to connect to these people? Because I suspect that if I was out of touch with my address update, I would feel better about getting that sorted than I would about the embarrassment of having this, this tax arrear situation. So I just wonder, is there anything you do to try to track down these folks in an appropriate way?
That is part of the tax sale procedure, is that they will try to hunt people down.
So at the next level, they have a more of a broader reach than.
They go investigate. Not we, but the taxpayer will pay for that tracking down. So as an example, if you moved and you still know that you own property, it would be your responsibility to tell the municipality, no different than your Visa bill.
Sure.
If you don't tell Visa that you moved and Visa tries to collect money from you, they find you.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good.
And I'm not guaranteeing that they will find people. We do know, I do know, and I can't release the names of these people, but some have passed on. So they're not here. But with the real tax, who we would hire for the next procedure, they actually go and they look to see who heirs are. And it's not they don't work on this for a year. They're not doing family heritage, but they're experts at this. And so there's no guarantee that we'll find these people. I won't be asking any one of you if you know these people or where they are and who their family members are. Can't do that.
You can't do that.
But after 3 years or more, it is their responsibility, when they know they own land, to tell us where they moved to.
Now, I do know, not of a specific person here in Calvin, but I do know of situations where people have owned some property and it's been passed on from family member to family member for decades. And some people have volunteered to pay taxes just so they could make use of the property. But the ownership of the land is just completely muddied and unclear, and there have been relatives contacted who say, I don't want anything to do with that. So I mean, there is going to be some that even this tax company is not going to be able, well, possibly not be able to find, because there's some people that just, there's some property that's just sort of sitting there in limbo, which is unfortunate because you and I talked about that. We'd like to see development in the town, and if there's a township, and if there is property that's just sitting vacant and nobody knows about it, that could be a place where property could be developed in the future. But to answer your question, does that answer your question about?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you very much for organizing this and making such good headway with collecting those dollars as well.
In less than 30 days.
How many are left? Now, you said in your report there were 4 of 7, 4 properties, so and you found another 2, is that
Right, another 2 properties have now, will be paid by Friday, one owner, those 2 properties. And a lot of these instances, it was more than one owner owning more than one property.
Okay. So there's very little left.
Very little left, yeah. Very few properties left. The dollar value runs from, as I say in here, up to $20,000 a property. So imagine if you know the average property tax bill or your own, how many years it would take to get to a $20,000 arrears payment. It's a lot of years that you ignored. And every one of these people walking in the door that we made arrangements with or who paid in full, all acknowledged that they received every envelope and chose to ignore it in the last 3 years. And since I've been here, that's been at least 9 envelopes.
How is the postal strike going to affect us with this?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No, they were sent out in advance of the postal strike about 3 weeks or 2 weeks before. We did get returned envelopes and most of these addresses are local. So
Good.
if they were to be returned, they would have been returned by now, and nothing that we need to do at this point is by mail. Those who haven't reached out to us, that there was a phone number and an email address, and they could come in person. So we weren't looking for an answer by mail anyway.
Gotcha. All right. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns?
Good job.
Yes. All right, so then I'll call this to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the report? And I am as well, so that's carried unanimously. Public Works Report, Winter Operations Policy. This is a really short report, so I'll turn it over to you before we go any further, but can I have a mover and a seconder? I'm being facetious, of course. It's a great report. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Grant, Councillor Morton. May I turn it over to our Public Works, to our Public Works Supervisor.
Thanks. It is a short report with a large document. It's something, winter operations plan is something that every municipality is, they're not required to do it, but it's a risk management part of our job that we should do that. It also explains to our public and to council, as well as our staff, what the expectations are for level of service, what the minimum maintenance standards requires from us, as well as other legalities such as on-duty logs and training. It'll be posted on the website for our public to view. In the quick conversation with Mayor Gould, he was quite surprised all the steps that we have to take in order to be protected when it comes to risk, like recording weather 3 times a day in the winter time, the preparation, 50% being ready a month before winter starts, patrolling, how often, routine patrols, the partial patrols, how we, although every road class in the municipality that we maintain in the winter is a class 4 road, We do have roads that are more well-traveled as they need their arterial to access Highway 17 through Mount Pleasant as well as Boundary and Highway 630. It also indicates our staffing levels. If we were to enter into a large event similar to the ones they're experiencing in the Muskokas, currently we're unable to run that 24-hour operations due to the legalities of the on-duty log. Although our drivers sometimes feel they're an emergency service, through the municipality, we are expected to plow snow. It's our job to do that in winter, and there are those legalities with how long they're allowed to work and drive. It also has a piece in there that we review every year, which would take our complaints or concerns, service requests, our fiscal responsibilities, our finances, our winter events, and it'll turn that into like a little graph where we can criticize if we're doing the job that's expected of our taxpayers, as well as allowing council to have a view of the level of service that we're currently providing. Because this is the first operations plan for the municipality of Calvin, it's a baseline as to where we can start and where we could possibly improve or remove or become better at our job in the winter operations plan.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It was, I was joking a little bit about the size of the report, but I hope that all the residents of the township take a moment to go through the agenda and just look at what was involved. It's not just a matter of saying, oh, here's the keys, go plow that road. You know, there's a lot more to it, and I think that report really shows what's involved. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Good job. Let me read the resolution before we go to questions and comments. Whereas the Public Works Superintendent has provided council with a winter operations plan to inform council, the traveling public and staff with expectations for service delivery for winter road maintenance. And whereas council adopts the winter operations plan for the 2024-2025 winter season. And furthermore, that the winter operations plan be reviewed prior to the commencement of 2025-2026 winter season for effectiveness. Now therefore be it resolved that council adopts the winter operations plan. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
I'll echo Mayor Gould's thoughts. I was impressed and surprised at the level of planning that would go into the season and the complexity of the operations with the routes and everything. I did not realize how much went into this in the background. I see the truck go by. That must be it. Turns out it's not. There's a bit more. So thanks for doing this. I think it's a great baseline report, like you say, for year one, and see how it measures out throughout the season. But great report. Thank you.
Thank you. Some people don't realize, like, for instance, yesterday, it started snowing at 4 a.m, but you know the snow is ending at 9 o'clock, and to be resourceful and fiscally responsible, you don't want to go out at 4:15 to plow the 1 inch of snow to sand to just start over at 9. Like, it's always a little bit of a game. Even last evening, we left the snow there, knowing that there's possibility of freezing rain because it's easier to take the snow off instead of mitigating the frozen roads. There's a lot to winter operations, a lot.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Crystal ball ready.
Yeah, even the Weather Network doesn't provide that.
And a lot of, I just want to, insert a little bit here, a lot of communication with staff, when the office closes at 4 o'clock or roads crew goes home at 3 because they've been in since 6. That communication with roads doesn't end at those times. We did have a chat in the office about the fact that, most of the roads crew sleep on their couches in the winter because they're looking outside if they're on call. They're not in their bedrooms. They're waking up at, 1 o'clock in the morning, waiting to see, because with Anne, the things that she's arranged is who's on call this weekend, and it's their job to look out the window sort of thing so that she can sleep too. And that's, very critical. And I also want to mention that staff, when you look at the patrol logs, the everything that, staff has to do now, time in, time out, that's something very different for our staff, but they're appreciating it. they're actually liking this, this change because it also organizes them as a crew. And they also get to recognize the work that's involved by in carrying out this exercise. And it is an exercise for a full season.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for the comments. I do have one question that's not entirely related to this, but I did hear one member of staff say to me that there's been more snow this year than there was in the entire season of last year. How's that affecting our roads this year?
Well, every year is different and fortunate for us, the roads froze in great condition, so we don't have that underneath potholing. That's always like, so in the fall, you're always like trying to grade, but it's raining, but so you can't grade. So you hope it freezes perfectly. So far, so good. However, we do have some ups and downs coming in the temperature. So that's always like it seems like it's froze well. And yes, last winter there wasn't much plowing to be done or sanding, which honestly makes it difficult as a supervisor because you depend on that work for the winter. So then you have to look for other things to do like brushing or. So it's great. They're happy to plow. And plus, the council was fortunate enough to budget them the new vehicle that they're plowing with this winter. And it's an automatic, which is new, so they're quite excited to plow snow. They're kind of like kids.
Good. Good to hear. So we're not in any kind of danger of running over budget at this
At
time?
this time, no, although we did just get a flood advisory today.
Yes, I heard that, yes. All right, are there any other questions, comments? None? All right, then I'll call this to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the report? And I'm as well, that's carried unanimously. So we're down to agencies, boards, and committees, ABCs. North Bay Conservation Authority, Councillor Morton.
The minutes for the October, November have been posted on the website and are included in our package. And as a result of last meeting, there was a CAO contacted our CAO and answered all the questions that came up during the last meeting. I was in touch with our assistant CAO who put the two CAOs together.
Conservation Authority.
Yeah. And then, actually, they left me right out of it. The two CAOs took over. I never really found out what they're gonna talk about. But I was assured from both sides that they answered all the questions.
Great.
And I know, our next meeting is tomorrow night, and which we're approving the budget tomorrow night. You got the draft budget last meeting. I said, what are you doing? Sending out a draft budget? We haven't even discussed it yet.
Right.
And then, we have another meeting next week too. So there's two more meetings coming up. One of them's about the budget.
And is the draft,
Budget will probably, the questions that come up with comparing the 2 years, that was, apparently satisfactorily discussed and, they'll be discussed again for
because
next.
you had brought that up, and you know, it'd be more helpful to have a comparison year to year.
Because there were so many discrepancies
Yeah.
and, how the budget had been increased in so many different lines. And what I learned in speaking to the interim CEO was that it was more about moving things from one line area to another line area. However, at the end of the day, the increase is approximately,
But
it's pretty good.
it used to be 11.8 now, the suggested, recommended levy is like 12.
12% increase, the percentage of increase is one.
I think it's 12%.
No, I thought that yours.
No, it's 12,000 and
Yeah, it's
something. It's like 5 or 6%.
It's about 6%, so another 6% increase coming
Yeah.
our way, yeah.
But that's, again, yet to be approved tomorrow night.
Right. Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Next one is the East Nipissing Planning Board. Councillor Grant and I were both there, but I'll let Councillor Grant speak to it. If you put the minutes online, they're in our package.
Business as usual. Pardon me. Business as usual, not particularly busy meeting.
No.
Just, I think there may be two severances or.
2 sentences.
I think, and basically the next meeting is December 19th.
Right.
And, it yeah. That's basically what I have to offer for that.
All right, thank you very much. The physicians recruitment, there were no meetings, so there's no report. OPP Detachment Board, Councillor Grant, of course, we've already spoken to part of the OPP costing, but if you'd like to add.
Yeah, so the meeting was supposed to be last Wednesday, but it was canceled. Weather concerns. And there might have been attendance concern as well. Or, combination of the two. So we didn't have a meeting, so I really have nothing more to add than previously, except that we are having a meeting sometime in January. It's to be determined, so
Thank you.
I don't have much there either.
I'm going to mirror your report on the Canadian Ecology Center. Our first meeting is, or my first meeting is supposed to be sometime in January, so, and I'm not sure of the exact date yet at this point in time either. So that leaves us up to the Castleholm update. Just to keep everyone up to date, we were supposed to have a council meeting talking about the downloading of costs from the provincial government. And because there was a general meeting called with all mayors and CAOs at the Castleholm facility, we decided to put that meeting on hold so that we could find out what was going on with Castleholm. And although the roads in Calvin were meticulously plowed, they were worried that they wouldn't be plowed in North Bay, so they canceled the meeting because of snowing conditions in North Bay. So that meeting was canceled. And then we are having a couple of meetings. The CAO and I are going to a meeting in 2 days' time. And so it's a very fluid situation with Castleholm. I've sent lots of information and I put something online. It's posted there for you. And I just wanted to emphasize this, and I jokingly called it the quarter pounder because one thing I've learned is that the construction cost of Castleholm is $121 million. And the $121 million it could change a little bit. There might be a couple of things that don't have to happen, and it might be a little bit less expensive, but of course it might be a little bit more expensive. But because it's a lot of money, it has to be financed over 30 years, and it's going to have a 30-year mortgage. And once that mortgage is set, which will be in a year to 2 years' time, depending on the completion stage of the operation, all of the interest becomes due. And what that means is we can't just turn around and say, well, we'll just pay cash. We have to pay the interest and the principal. And if you do the math, current 5.5%, you're talking about another $123 million. And that's $250 million or $250 million that's going to be downloaded to taxpayers across East Nipissing. So amongst the 9 municipalities, including North Bay and Calvin, it's $250 million. So I think it's really important to say that the municipal mayors, CAOs, staff are strong believers in long-term healthcare. And we believe that what has to happen is we have to care for the elderly. But the long-term healthcare system in Northern Ontario is facing an unprecedented difficulty with overcrowded facilities, long wait lists, and escalating financial pressures on municipalities and taxpayers. Despite recent efforts to rebuild the facilities at Castleholm, the financial burden continues to mount. And this is an urgent call for reform to ensure that Northern Ontario's aging population receives the care they deserve without bankrupting municipalities or further burdening taxpayers. And the following issues need immediate attention: an urgent need to address the long-term care crisis and its disproportionate impact on Northern Ontario, the unfair and unsustainable financial burden placed on municipalities and taxpayers, and the need for governance reform to ensure fair representation for municipal taxpayers. A call for provincial responsibility in its funding of long-term healthcare infrastructure as well. Northern Ontario is facing a critical shortage of long-term care beds. With an aging population and insufficient capacity, many residents are forced to endure long wait lists, inadequate care settings, and unnecessary suffering. This ongoing crisis particularly focuses on the challenges faced by municipalities in funding long-term care infrastructure and services. The crisis in long-term care in Northern Ontario, the shortage of long-term care beds in Northern Ontario is not a future issue. It's happening right now. Facilities like Castle Home already are operating at near capacity with waiting lists, 315 people. In Mattawa, seniors are placing their names on waiting lists when they retire because they've been told there could be a 4, 5, or 6 year waiting period for them to get into a long-term care facility. The provincial government's failure to address these issues in a timely and effective manner exacerbates this crisis, leaving municipalities and residents to bear the brunt of the costs. So we have a growing need for long-term health care, and it's going to grow every year in the next 20 years. Between 2018 and 2023, the percentage of people waiting for discharge to appropriate settings such as long-term health care homes was significantly higher in Northern Ontario compared to other regions, 24 to 25% in Northern Ontario versus 10 to 22% in Southern Ontario. Additionally, the Ontario Long-Term Care Association, the OLPCA, projects that the number of Ontarians over the age of 80 will more than double from 2023 to 2040, further increasing the demand for long-term care beds. The question remains, how do we finance this expansion of long-term care facilities? While Northern European countries allocate around 4% of their GDP to long-term care, Canada allocates just 1.3%. The disparity reflects the inadequate funding available for Ontario's long-term care homes. Castle Home, for example, is heavily reliant on municipal tax revenues to cover costs, placing an unsustainable burden on local taxpayers. In the fiscal year 2022 to 2023, the Ontario government received $19.2 billion in federal health transfers, including the Canada Health Transfer, yet the province continues to download a disproportionate share of the cost to the municipalities. The AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, has criticized this practice, and they've highlighted the need for review tools available to municipalities to address escalating long-term care costs. Castle Home, the reconstruction has ballooned in cost. While the final tax bill is over $250 million, $250 million, the significant portion of which will be downloaded onto the 9 municipalities and their taxpayers. North Bay, for example, is responsible for 80% of this levy, which will increase local taxes by $200 to $300 per year per resident for the next 30 years. And the municipalities do not own the assets, they only own the debt. While decisions have been made that benefit separate stakeholders, like Castle Arms and the North Tower, at the expense of local taxpayers, this is a clear example of the unsustainable fiscal pressures placed on municipal governments, Calvin included. The current board structure of Castle Home, mandated by the province, exacerbates governance problems. The province has imposed a structure where 8 of the 9 municipalities share just 2 representatives on the board. As a result, each municipality has to wait up to 16 years to have a representative serve on the board. This lack of fair representation leads to decisions that prioritize the board's interests over the needs of the taxpayers, and it is that they're supposed to serve. Moreover, the current board structure is designed to prioritize interests of the board over those of the municipality. Representatives are legally bound to favor the board's interests, even when they do not align with the needs of the constituents. This is an example of taxation without representation. This is an unfair distribution of costs, And I've talked about this, and I know Councillor Grant has, and our CAO has the current value assessment formula, which is applied by the province and is in the provincial law, unfairly distributes the financial burden across municipalities. For example, Calvin Township pays twice as much per resident as North Bay, and North Bay pays twice as much as Mattawa. This inequitable distribution of costs combined with the fixed 30-year mortgage payment places an undue burden on our already taxed municipal residents. So given the overwhelming evidence of financial mismanagement, mismanagement, governance issues, and inequities in the current system, immediate action is required. The province must reform the governance structure of Castle Home and other long-term care facilities to ensure better representation, assume the responsibility for the $121 million mortgage and its related interest, as this debt stems from provincial legislation that should not be downloaded to municipalities. Increase funding for long-term care to match the growing needs for Ontario's aging population. And these are just the things that I feel that we have to pressure to get the provincial government to act on. And just in closing, I will say that if I failed to advocate for the taxpaying residents of Calvin Township, I put out a call to action that I should be removed from office by the next election, and so should any of the other mayors who don't want to advocate for their taxpayers and their residents as well. It's time that we brought this thing to, we've been dancing around in circles for far too long, and it's time that we take some action. So that's the end of my report.
You're making a resolution to.
No, I can't make a resolution because we have to discuss that in council first.
And this is your personal report.
This is my personal report. It's not the report of council.
But that was a report you were gonna present to Castle Home the other day.
As the mayor,
Yeah.
yes,
May I make a comment?
absolutely, man.
I think that Calvin has a lot more in common with, has a lot in common with the other municipalities on this issue, and I think that, you know, I mean, I've taken some, formal education on, political science class. And there's a fundamental governance issue here where healthcare is not the responsibility of municipalities, it's the responsibility of provinces.
Right.
It's not federal responsibility either, it's a provincial responsibility. And I think just on a fundamental level, it's outrageous. It's not right to burden municipal tax dollars, which are collected on property tax, mostly property tax, to fund healthcare. It's unsustainable, and that's why it's set up like that. It's an unsustainable formula. And it's particularly concerning that it affects, you know, these northern municipalities, likely more so than even southern municipalities. That was my first point. My second point was, you know, at all costs, obviously there's a need for long-term care beds, but the costs are staggering. And, you know, from a private business perspective, because I do have another job, you know, you look for creative solutions in these matters. It's not acceptable just to simply say, you know, we're gonna use our power of government to just levy or demand more money from ratepayers. It has to be, you know, I don't even think it's up to us to maybe we can make suggestions, but whoever's running the boards and the province, really, I think it's a provincial issue to come up with more creative solutions to meet these demands, meet these needs. It's a higher level of governance thing. But I think it's our role to highlight to them, this is, you know, we're concerned about these things. And my third point was just specific to Calvin. We had a CVA calculation, 30-year mortgage, much of which is based on a pipeline. And, you know, there's, I mean, many people say it's not gonna happen, but out loud, we have a federal government saying they're gonna end gas. And so, you know, if the revenue disappears, it's catastrophic. On its face, it's too expensive. for ratepayers. And then to add the extras for specific to Calvin, it's a real.
Double the amount.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually unsustainable. It's fiscally irresponsible. So I applaud, Mayor Richard for presenting, the report and coming up with these good points. And hopefully as a council, I really think our role is advocacy to the province, because I really think it's their problem to solve. I don't think it's really ours to solve. But also team up with other municipalities, all of them. I think we all have this as a shared interest. Whether it be North Bay, Mattawa, Papineau, Bonfield, we're all in the same boat. However, we have different household costs, but really on the fundamental issues, it's an issue for all of us in the province. We need to engage the province to step up on the issue.
Thank you for good, strong comments. And I just answer one question or one comment that you made, and that is that the disparity between Southern and Northern Ontario. And I didn't put this in the report, but there are 646 long-term care homes in Ontario. And of those 646, there are only 6 that are under municipal boards. And Castle Home is one of those 6, which is the Board of East Nipissing. And they are structured differently than the other 641. And in those other structures, they would have boards set up that could be nonprofit boards, that could be public boards, that could be for-profit boards or whatever. And municipalities are involved in the costing of those boards, but the municipality has a say in how that costing moves forward. So if somebody comes up and says, well, we want to gold plate the building and it's going to cost $1 million, the municipality can say, no, that's not going to happen. In the municipal boards in Ontario, in Northern Ontario, they have the power of levy. And if they agree in their board that that has to happen, we just have to pay. And so we are additionally burdened by costs, if you will, than the other municipalities. So why don't they change that? Well, because, and it's exactly what you said, it's in provincial law. It's not up to the Castle Home Board to change the board. It's in the provincial long-term, fixing the Long-Term Healthcare Act, and that's where it has to change. So we have to fight to get the province to change that board structure one way or another. They don't want to do it, but that's the only way we're going to fix it. I mentioned that the AOC is saying that it's unfair and unsustainable. They're talking about the municipalities in Southern Ontario. And we're in a much worse position than those municipalities are. So we really we either have to just accept it or we have to fight it. And that's a decision the council has to make.
Kind of flavor.
I think so, and that's a council decision. So that's,
If
yeah,
I could add a little something just to maybe bring it to your attention, but every municipality within Castle Homes, the region, did guarantee the loan, by the way, including this one. So that will affect our borrowing power. I mean, that's already done.
Right.
Every municipality did guarantee the loan for the new construction,
right.
just so that you may not be aware of that, but that's
The previous start.
But whether it's previous to us or not, we've signed it.
just so that you
Yeah, and I'd like to just add to that, because I was a member of previous council as well. And I can't, the councilors that I've interacted with, from this municipality and others and previously is what I'm discussing, is, they've all basically said the same thing. It's a terrible deal, but we have no choice. And it's like, okay, it's a terrible deal, you have no choice, but we have the power of advocacy, and I believe it's to be our duty.
Right.
As politicians to advocate. And, it's the province has got to do more. And that's what we got to put in there, and we should be teaming up with other municipalities on this issue, because I think we have a lot in common.
When that was signed by the previous council, it was believed that the interest rate would be through Infrastructure Ontario and would be 1 or 2%. Now that doesn't exist anymore. So, now you're adding $80 million to like $250 million. That's not just a drop in the bucket, guys. That's a fair bit of pocket change for 9 municipalities. And I mean, we have the OPP, we have the, social services. And on top of all of that, you're gonna put all this, this Castle Home funding against municipality. It's.
And I want to make a clarification. I wasn't to criticize last council. I just wanted you to be aware that we have all guaranteed that loan.
And also, not a criticism, I'm just stating that, it's not a criticism, there's a feeling of helplessness often when you're confronted with these massive issues, especially, all of these municipalities, essentially. We're supposed to be, the council's supposed to be reflective of the representatives, so, you could have farmers, you could have, convenience store clerks, you could have truck drivers, you could have accountants potentially, you could have a variety of people at the table, and you should. And some of these massive political problems are just daunting,
Right.
but it doesn't mean it's not worth pursuing.
I wasn't really complaining about previous council. I was trying to point out that this has been an ongoing situation. I understand one of the mayors has been dealing with Castle Home for over 20 years, trying to straighten things out. And I was at a meeting representing the mayor when he wasn't available. And there was 2 or 3 mayors at that meeting that they're pulling their hair out trying, this has been going on for years.
Decades.
Yeah, people are exhausted, but we got some fresh energy and a new approach, and it's worth it.
Never made one more comment, sorry, go
Go.
ahead, Counselor. You hear me all the time talking about roles and responsibilities on agencies, boards and commissions, and that it's important to recognize the role, the terms of reference. Here's a great example of why that is, and to speak to the representative on a regular basis who's representing on these boards, to never receive reports from people who are reporting on your behalf or are making decisions on your behalf. You've heard me talk about this in the past, and it's why I challenge you all when you're sitting on agencies and boards and I ask what are the terms of reference and what is your role there, and you don't know. Here's a great example of why that is so important, that not only me asking for that, but that you do too, to satisfy the whole council and all of your representatives, all of your taxpayers. Gotta know what you're doing there. And so does your council.
So hopefully sometime in the next, in January, we can set up a meeting and decide on what our strategy is here. And.
Not in January.
Well, yeah,
They're hoping for something. I guess not.
There's no meeting at Castle Home, as you know, they came to every one of us, every council member, every council, and they made a presentation and they then put it out there. They would like everyone to get together to push for that one grant. That was the purpose of the meeting. That they were holding was to come good, and the promise that they made, we should all get together in order to advocate for that grant that they weren't eligible for. And that meeting unfortunately was canceled.
and they're saying now January.
January, we don't have a date though, so.
So not only should we attend that meeting, I think we should attend our own meeting as well. And not just to talk about Castle Home, but all of the downloading within council. And that was the CAO's suggestion as well.
I think there's good on the good news front. We just saw the OPP put out a budget, and then there was a collective response, and then there was a change. So if this was just us, or even just our local 9 fighting this, might be a challenge, but perhaps we can engage with the other 6 board structures. Maybe they're just as dissatisfied, or almost. And partnering with them might be a strong enough voice as well. I look forward to a meeting where we can dig into some of these strategies. And I applaud the immense amount of work you've gone into really concisely summarize the issue here.
Thank you. Any other last comments or? Well, that's it for our ABCs. Thank you very much. Sorry to waste a little bit of time on this last meeting in December, but
Important. It's a very economic. It's huge.
impact.
For the township and for this area. And some of the comments that you and I have had, that conversations that we've had that I guess aren't going to be privy to the public yet. were shocking, and I'm surprised that we can't talk about it yet. Anyway, I guess that'll be the new, in the new year.
All right, so I'll bring the ABCs to a close and, so now therefore a mover to seconder to, okay, Councillor Morton and Councillor Grant. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of Municipality of Calvin accepts the agency board committee verbal reports and or minutes provided by council at this meeting. All those in favor? It's carried unanimously. Next item is closed meetings, and there is none. So we have the confirmatory bylaw. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Morton and Councillor Manson. Therefore be it resolved that bylaw 2024 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council be approved. All those in favor? Carried.
69, I believe, Trish, the number?
There. Yeah, 69.
Thank you. Resolute, yes, 2024 069. And an adjournment, mover to seconder, Councillor Morton, Councillor Grant. Therefore be it resolved, the Council for the Corporation of Municipality of Calvin now be adjourned at well, I guess 7:03.
So glad for joining us. That's right.
No.
Merry Christmas, Counselor.
All those in favor? And that covered.
Yes.
Now adjourned.
We're adjourned, good, thank you. Sounds like a good plan.
How's that?
Yeah, we're not recording anymore.
How's that, Trish?